My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is Securitas that's stalking, that's engaged in criminal summoning, P.O.C. He is monitoring. It is 5:40 a.m. and he is doing so with the city of Ontario. You pay attention to how the sirens are stopping. He's going to be prosecuted for psychological torture, harassment, terrorism, and he's criminally monitoring with the entity. P.O.C. This is Ontario Town Square. Those are the stalkers using helicopters, and they think it's a good idea that's direct evidence. These are demons that don't know how a federal case against them in court is going to be executed. They're idiots. This is Securitas, and this is the Ontario Police Department, P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 5:40 a.m. This is used as light activity right here. This is light activity. This is an entity that's monitoring together, and he's pulling up. That's Securitas. Remember, Leo is with Securitas. The African-American female with the mop on her head on the golf cart, stalking with light all the time. That's Securitas. The entity that has a history of kidnapping with the OVITT Family Community Library, that's Securitas. The gang stalker Dylan inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, that's Securitas. That's the entity that's gang stalking and doing so right now. This is third party. I'm gonna get his license. Criminal summoning is the basis of federal prison. He's already engaged in kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department. 7YNY765. This criminal summoning as he's pulling up at 5:39 a.m. These are demons that are monitoring at the Ontario Town Square. You already know where I'm at. You're not ignorant that I'm sleeping at the square. They're stalking me by helicopter and by planes. Okay, so you have what are security guards that are engaged in gang stalking. They're stalkers. They're not engaging in security. They're stalking. This is a means of targeting. Okay, it's the entity's engaging in the pattern of conduct, and then at the same time, that's not rebutted because he hasn't engaged in criminal summoning. He doesn't even have to call the police. The police are monitoring in this video. They know exactly where I'm sleeping, and everybody, including the feds, already know that. This is the same criminal pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. That's the Asian male that's engaged in gang stalking, as I document regularly under the fake sun. It's 5:41 a.m., 5:42 a.m., P.O.C. All right, these are stalkers. 5 o'clock in the morning. OVITT Family Community Library. Everywhere I'm walking, stalking in the path with light. Demons. Lurking along Lemon. Around Euclid. This is P.O.C. Driver and a passenger. ED 60 George 61 paper plate. That's light activity. The turn signal. The engineered environment that they're stalking in a vehicle in on the roads and the highways. Going into any venue over here, which that venue was stalking as well. Here's my shadow here. They're not doing anything other than stalking. This is impossible light activity, and they're doing so at 5 o'clock in the morning. The same level of obsession by the city that's spending millions of dollars in stalking me in planes, commercial planes, and doing so as a department. That's not a police department that's stalking using helicopters. That costs a lot of money. This is money that is set aside by the municipality. Gang stalking, which is, again, terrorism funded by Paul Leon, who is not a mayor. This is a terrorist leader. He's going to be federally prosecuted. And this is that population that shares in that. 5 o'clock in the morning at the OVITT Family Community Library. And yes, they are gang stalking and admittedly engaging in vagina monitoring. And then they have the audacity to engage in what is providing me a written document admitting so, because those are admissions. And they're going to federal prison for it. In the same way I'm being gang stalked at 5 o'clock in the morning, those psychopaths are gang stalking inside of a library where none of them are even reading. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:03 a.m. All right, stalking on the roads and the highways. He starts his ignition while the entity is stalking by plane. This is a Latino male. License 40193 Bob 3, and there is the entity stalking, following or no longer stalking over the town square, over the Elba cone. That's impossible light. Stalking. Those are not headlights. This is that ongoing system. And this is the serial stalker. I believe her address is the old white woman that's gang stalking me with the Ontario police sitting in her vehicle outside of her facilitating venue is nothing other than a means of the federal government knowing exactly who she is and exactly where to find her. This is equally federal prison. She literally uttered a threat to engage in criminal summoning, which is criminal summoning while you're stalking, by the way, and you're monitoring what you're stating. And those demons engage in arriving in real time, as I've documented before. You don't call the police that are gang stalking. They're already gang stalking by virtue of them, the people of the state. This is the entity that's engaged in that together. This is at Euclid Avenue and C Street. This is Vos Church, where the entity is engaged in police training here, gang stalking, engaged in what is criminal summoning here, gang stalking, engaged in what is conspicuous surveillance across from the library where I'm there, gang stalking, and they're doing so on the roads and the highways. This is federal stalking by the people. Engineer light is moving all across, and they're stalking on the roads and the highways, monitoring, and this is obsession. That's impossible light. This is a vagina monitor, 8UND513. The entity that's stalking by helicopter is doing so through 8UND513. That's audible activity by gang stalker acting in furtherance of murder, 8UND513 at C Street and Euclid Avenue. And this is also impunity. And she's targeting with the demon that's gang stalking at the venue where she lives, the serial stalker, and she's going to federal prison. They're stalking together. Okay, that's the pattern of conduct. This is the entity that's engaged in that. And this is what the Ontario police are including helicopter activity in. They're stalking 24 hours a day through the people of the state. And they're doing so while they also implement helicopter and plane activity. And this is the beast system for which Mike LORENZ is going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:08 a.m. They're progressing over here, then here, and now right here. is so coming down this way, and now they're flying this way. Nine VBF 774, Southwest Airlines. P.O.C. At what is 513, and these are indeed terrorists. Yep, that's terroristic, that's terrorizing, that is terrorism, it is gang violence, and they maintain surveillance also where the entity is gang stalking. This is a facilitating venue. That is the Ontario Police are maintaining surveillance through the people at 513 Vesta, and they're doing so in concert while they're looking at themselves being exposed, and you all are witnessing the sacrifice of Satan himself, his demons, his minions, his agents being sacrificed, and they're engaging in ongoing criminal activity. Terrorists are going to prison and they're not getting out. This is not going to be a 5-year term in prison for terrorism in the U.S. P.O.C. These are the mentally ill who derive some sense of ego out of successfully murdering people and psychologically torturing them in order to successfully defame their character. And as they have lost in this criminal and satanic endeavor, they are, with regard to what is delusion, because it's being documented, engaging in that ongoing criminal activity because they are now hostile because they've been unsuccessful. And their lack of success is literally the documentation that's published all over the internet. There are no terminals. Terminal 2, Terminal 4, that includes flights over 517 Vesta. And I've also documented this pattern of conduct during the day with the fake sun directly over me. And this is terrorism while demons are targeting, knowing exactly where I'm at, stalking down an alley where the entity is stalking by commercial plane, where they are all inside of what are facilitating venues where the entire city is being prosecuted. That's what this is relevant to. P.O.C. And it's currently 8:17 a.m. Pay attention to what I published on X, which you can access yourself on the Ontario International Airport website regarding the published flights that are outside of what the entity is doing, gang stalking me. And that was Southwest Airlines flying over 517 West Vesta. This is P.O.C. This is 513 West Vesta in Ontario, California, 91762. This is 507 West Vesta Street in Ontario, California, 91762. The neighborhood is Stalking at the intersection of Vesta Street and Vine Avenue in Ontario, California. License 9 Larry Nancy Kelly 418, parked at the corner. 40941 George 1, parked at the corner. 9 Edward 0 Victor 248, parked at the corner. 7 Thomas Kelly Wendy 690, gang stalking by crossing path, and they're pacing, coming in both directions. License plate 7 Zebra Apple David 647 with license plate 3 Nancy Henry Larry 637. This is the neighborhood stalking with the entity maintaining plane and helicopter activity here. This is P.O.C. 6 Paul Robert David 694 and the fake sun. All right, this is the neighborhood stalking and coming over to this area to engage in that aerial surveillance as an entity. Co-conspirators of murder and the terrorists, who are the people of the state in Ontario, California, shall be made an example nationally regarding terrorists that are going to be prosecuted just like any threat, such as Osama bin Laden. Everyone knows his name. The people of the state are equally threatening and equally subject to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:21 a.m. Southwest Airlines. The same Southwest Airlines that's stalking me in Fontana, California with the Fontana Police Department under the fake sun is stalking in Ontario. License 9 Wendy David Charlie 483 is sharing in that criminal pattern of conduct with that commercial airline company that is a terrorist, and also the people of the state. This is at the intersection of Fern and C Street, C as in Charlie, 328, which would be C Street, 328 North Fern Avenue, perhaps. License 7 Paul 50814. They're all monitoring, and the entity is stalking as I'm traveling down the street from this is Fern and C Street, so being at what is Vine and Vesta. The entity is stalking as I'm traveling up and down the street, and so are the people of the state. This is the significance of them gang stalking in their homes while the entity maintains plane activity. And you're looking at the clear deviation from any ordinary, first of all, published flights from the airport, and also what the entity is doing with deviating miles away from any airport where they're at that elevation, creating a public nuisance, which the people of the state are not complaining about because they share in that public nuisance. They share in the gang stalking. This is P.O.C. at Fern and C Street. And again, it is currently 8:25 a.m. That is specifically the terrorist Southwest Airlines, and the Ontario International Airport is being shut down and prosecuted for all that the commercial airlines, who are the people of the state, are engaging in. P.O.C. All right, this is traveling to what is Fern Avenue and D Street, where the people of the state are engaging in what is crossing path, gang stalking, maintaining criminal surveillance, which is evident as the government is stalking throughout the neighborhood by what is already on the record, not just commercial planes, but also helicopter activity. They're doing so while the entity maintains what is a public nuisance as you prosecute and recognize that pattern of conduct. License 8 Charlie Nancy Zebra 072 is stalking on the roads and the highways in furtherance of murder and is not a stranger. That's a demon-possessed person as well that's very mentally ill. And you can see that there's an elementary school in the neighborhood where the entity is maintaining surveillance. This is directly rebutting the focal point being actual education of minor children. This is an entity that's engaging in surveillance, aerial surveillance, ongoing gang stalking, in furtherance of murder, sexual violence, maintaining the fake sun, rise and sunset, etc., amongst that entity that's engaging in that P.O.C. This is Fern and D Street, the entity maintaining this ongoing evidence as I'm traveling through the neighborhood. The neighborhood is gang stalking. All right, this is P.O.C.
That all bankrupt and rightly understand in what form they have been washed, by whose spirit they have been reborn, and by whose blood they have been redeemed, to our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives in the Trinity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen.
Alrighty, this is the entity that is stalking through the neighborhood as I'm on B Street, as I'm on C Street, as I'm on Fern and Vine, and the entity's gang stalking up to Holt. This is the entity that is stalking with the people of the state, maintaining that surveillance system. She is engaged in what is demonic. Her back is to me, but she's in perfect alignment with me. This is what a demon is doing. And she's doing minor child. And what you want to pay attention to is the institution that is engaged in criminal surveillance, which is the basis, which shall be recognized under federal law to remove any accredited status. This is the same with the gang stalking mayor, the Ontario City Council. This is the people of the state that are engaging in it at the Ontario Civic Center, speaking to an egregious level of public corruption. They're engaging in criminal activity in plain view, doing so as a matter of what is just the criminal conduct underway in the city of Ontario. The Ontario police are pacing along Sultana, monitoring with the 24-hour College of Laverne University of Law. That's not a legitimate law school, and it's not a legitimate institution. And those that are gang stalking, doing so by literally attending the institution, that will not be a basis to sit for the California bar exam. And this institution itself will be identified as what is a terrorist. They're engaging in that pattern of conduct and contributing to the public corruption that I'm exposing. And what is, I want to be clear, literally unfit by definition under the Business and Professions Code, under what are the basis whereby you're talking about moral turpitude and all those that are directly rebutting anybody that is fit to instruct in the course of law or that is fit to practice law as an officer of the court, let alone to prepare those that wish to be officers of the court. This is what's gang stalking. This is what's wrong with it when you have a gang stalking mayor and you have those that are corrupt that are engaging in that pattern of conduct with gang members that call themselves police officers, gang members that are maintaining a corrupt airport, and the asininity of that.
that mentally ill conduct that has no place in a courtroom. This is the fake sun. They are mentally ill, engaging in the course of the practice of law. And this is exposing that and the threat that it is to the public. This is the plight that California has because the mentally ill have been systematically pumped out into society, maintaining this corrupt system. They're stalking over here by the airport. This is P.O.C. All right. And this is the entity that's doing so. Those that don't even have high school diplomas are gang stalking with those that are instructing those that desire to be officers of the court. And this is reconciling what is absurd with regard to the level of corruption in Ontario, which is exposing what's going on in California. And this is the beast system. This is P.O.C. It's currently 12:55 p.m. where the entity has the fake sun over me. I'm just here the other day making a spectacle of the demons that are pacing under the 8:35 a.m. fake sun. This is the same location. This is P.O.C. This is to lose accredited status. You will not be a remaining institution in the practice of law. And if you had to struggle to get that accredited status, you just lost it. All right. And you lost it the day that I was documenting terrorism by helicopter at the University of Laverne College of Law. This is P.O.C. It is currently 12:56 p.m. No gang stalker is going to be practicing law in a courtroom. It's absurd. P.O.C. All right, I just want you to show you, this is very much regarding surveillance. This is over the Ontario City Council. This is over the Ontario Senior Center. This is over the Ontario Senior Citizen Apartment Complex. This is seconds after I stopped recording and the ongoing obsession with stalking. This is Southwest Airlines that's stalking in Fontana, California. This is the entity that's doing the same thing west of this location where, in other words, you are not taking off, you are stalking miles away from the airport and throughout the city. All right, that's what the people of the state are doing at their facilitating venues, which is where they live. And this is the basis of martial law. This is the basis of prosecuting the government. That is, again, engaging in what is the conspiracy to murder by maintaining surveillance in the way in which is going to be the basis of prosecuting and removing the Ontario International Airport. And that is the terrorist Southwest Airlines that I've been documenting all this morning, by the way. But Southwest Airlines represents the entity, and that's seconds later. Okay, that's psychopathic behavior, and it's relevant to what is also psychopathic pacing, which is all that the demon possessed are doing on the grounds. All right. They do so while they go to whatever venue is around me. So they're engaged in psychopathic pacing into the library, into the senior center, into their apartments, all around, walking their dog, walking their demon-possessed children, driving around the parking lot, which is what the entity is doing while all of them are just stalking me. This is P.O.C. All right. It is currently 12:58 p.m. And like I said, this is confirmation regarding what I just detailed regarding what shall be no accredited institution engaging in the practice of what is law, let alone the instruction of those that desire to be engaged in the practice of law. You will not be going to any gang stalking institutions. And no gang stalking institution is maintaining any accredited status. So you may have attended there, but you will not be practicing law. And this is law that shall be retroactive because they've been engaging in what is those that have taken the California bar that were gang stalking. This is a matter of documentation 2018. And this prosecution is going to haunt you and you will be found and you will be removed from the practice of law. It's not going to happen. You're terrorists. P.O.C. It is currently 12:58 p.m.
Criminal surveillance. You've been looking at on the Google Drive image after image after image after image of stalking. Right here where the Ontario City Hall is a reference and ongoing clear indication of criminal surveillance by the local government that cannot reasonably contend that it's ignorant about the level of corruption that is being documented, that I'm subject to, including at that Ontario City Hall, which is this stalking by helicopter. This is the entity that's gang stalking over the OVITT Family Community Library, flying right over the senior citizen apartment complex, engaging in this where the entity is keeping the fake sun. I documented it right over my head here. And you're already mindful of the P.O.C. The entity is gang stalking just like this, where the fake sun rises and sets, which includes right here at this walkway. This is College of Laverne, University of Law. This is a corrupt gang stalking institution. And such un-American oxymorons that apply to the government, that apply to the people of the state, that apply to those that are maintaining corrupt business practices, etc., are going to be dealt with under federal law, while the entity is using every corner of society to maintain criminal surveillance. The entity is engaging in this while they are stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library. And then you're looking at March 3rd, where the Ontario police that are gang stalking are handing over a written document regarding an admission to criminal surveillance, while the gang stalker themselves, C. Gerber, which represents that agency that's stalking right now, is handing over a document without incident with false allegations. Okay, he is going to prison, and that's the department that's being disbanded. That's the department that's being disbanded with every bit of evidence of the entity maintaining surveillance, which is the Ontario International Airport, gang stalking throughout the entirety of the city of Ontario. The entity met together as the mentally ill. This is P.O.C. It is currently 2:50 p.m. Alrighty, this is an example of clear stalking. The entity's flying over the Chevron, and he gets out of his vehicle at the same time, communication device in his hand, staring at it, studying it while he's monitoring with the government. Pay attention to the entity. This is monitoring, and these are demons. And this is surrounding license 9 Thomas David Uncle 382. They had their headlights aimed toward me. They were in position waiting. The entity's flying over. That's of the steps conduct. And this is the entity that is stalking with light. And this is where the documentation of the fake sun rising and setting at the Chevron. This is at the East Street, Euclid Avenue. This is where the entity committed kidnapping, July 4, 2025. Starbucks is monitoring right now. This is the P.O.C. All right, and this is the RICO case against the people of the state who are terrorists, and so are the people of the state. These are businesses who represent, they are the people of the state. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:14 p.m. The entity is stalking at as I'm going down back toward the OVITT Family Community Library, the Ontario City Hall, the population is stalking while the entity then maintains plain activity over the senior center, over that library. As I am in Upland, California, up Euclid Avenue, the entity is stalking in the same manner at the same elevation. And the Ontario International Airport remains at the same location. This is the gang stalking conduct. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:14 p.m. This is abuse under federal law. It's also terrorism. It's also demonic. This is public corruption. And it is simultaneously demonic activity. This is the fake sun. Okay. And you have that oxymoron that the federal government is going, a plight the federal government is going to deal with regarding gang stalking so-called parents / guardians who are inflicting what is abuse upon the minors who are engaging in the satanic and mentally ill pattern of conduct, criminal activity with the U.S. government, in furtherance of murdering another person, sexually violating another person, terrorizing another person. And while they are put in those circumstances to engage in that, they will be prosecuted as terrorists who are also abusing minors. This is moreover more probative. Is relevant to the entity that is gang stalking. I am here just the other day at 8:35 in the morning, and here is at the OVITT Family Community Library. And at 8:35 in the morning, when I'm standing at the same location, you are looking at stalkers. When I'm referring to the demons that are congregating at a gang stalking Catholic church, which is the State's Church at 8:35, when they are pacing, getting out of the blue van and crossing path, walking in opposite directions, doing so at the same C Street turn circle, you're understanding the significance of that fake sun, understanding the significance of the illusion, which is not sunlight, it's engineer light, and those that are present, demons that are always studying their devices as well. These are the bots, these are the zombies, these are the living dead that are engaging in criminal activity. These are vagina monitors as well, and this is what they are focused while also keeping your genitalia under surveillance, monitoring you, stalking you conspicuously, doing so where you also know the government is maintaining surveillance. Where the fake sun is where the government is maintaining unlawful surveillance that it has not engaged in and practiced with the consent of the American people. Where the entity is gang stalking under a fake sun, so are the people of the state. And it is a state system, and this is the exact same location where I'm at 8:35 in the morning when I'm reminding you about being in Fontana, California at Spring Street and Sierra, where the downtown Ontario luxury apartments are simultaneously prosecuted as engaging in that surveillance system where the people of the state reside. engaging in what is vicarious criminal conduct, where they are not coincidentally sharing that pattern of conduct, that demon possession, that ongoing course of conduct showing that surveillance by the demon possessed are underway. The entity is not simultaneously and coincidentally engaging in the pattern of conduct inside of the buildings, the venues, where they are stalking in the path in the engineered light and everyone's ignorant about it. This is supernatural. This is a demonic environment, and these are the mentally ill who are demon possessed. And that is captured within the P.O.C. where there are no police officers. These are the demon possessed. These are homegrown terrorists who have been engaged in criminal surveillance like the Ontario Police Department have shown you during the day and at night. And they are the demon possessed, and this is that beast system. And in Ontario, California, they shall be made an example of regarding the protection of American citizens' national security, which relies upon disbanding the Ontario Police, placing such domestic terrorists in prison, and making sure that they are subject to the mental examinations that are necessary in order to protect the public. That's the same with those that are gang stalking, the commercial airline companies that are engaging in terrorism in your face, and you are unaware and ignorant about the significance of what they are actually doing while they maintain brands and logos and a business profiting from domestic terrorism. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:26 p.m. where I'm at the same OVITT Family Community Library at 8:35 a.m. where I'm juxtaposing that scene with what is captured in Fontana, where the people of the state are engaging in conspicuous surveillance, and this is impunity, and they're doing so while they have been keeping the evidence, exposing them and prosecuting them under surveillance, and not ceasing to engage in that terrorism. And that is communicating to you who are witnessing this an unlawful threat to you as American citizens, and you who are abroad. These commercial airline companies are flying in and out of your countries as well. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:27 p.m. And here is a response by terrorists who are in the United States, and they are going to be stripped and prosecuted as the enemies of this country that they are. This is the entity, and this is, again, under the terrorist leader Mike LORENZ, who's going to be treated as the enemy that he is and humbled before the world based upon the absence of any actual authority, being exposed as the enemies that they are as an agency, and that he is as one that is engaging in criminal conduct when they have been proven to be what is, first of all, a liability to the rest of those that are sharing in this criminal system with them, but also a danger to the American public. And this is the entity that's doing so while they are witnessing their exposure. This is relevant to years in prison that Mike LORENZ is getting. Those that are engaging in stalking like Jay Montez, how many years he's getting in prison. Those that are engaging in criminal summoning, as you see Hernandez doing at the Superior Grocer, how many years in prison he's getting. How many years in prison all the kidnappers of the Ontario Police who have intentionally done so in furtherance of criminally defaming my character in order to get away with what is ultimately planning my murder and theft of money and property that belongs to me, while it contains a surveillance system in the face of the American citizen that is not ignorant but aware and documenting it. This is showing to the federal government, who is going to review this evidence and make a decision about his liberty, and all of those relevant to gang stalking with him plotting my murder, how many years he's going to prison. This is P.O.C. Is currently, by the way, moments after capturing the fake son. This is directly relevant to what is an unlawful threat, the ongoing documented pattern by those that are stalking under the fake son, like Hidel Shiapani and all the gang members of the Ontario Police, who I do not know, who say my name while they're stalking me on this same street. Remember what the entity is doing at 8 in the morning. Right, when they're talking about a letter of the OVITT Family Community Library having some curbside unsolicited meeting with me, and they're engaging in gang stalking under this fake son that's still present after 6 p.m. They're all going to prison. Every single last one of them. They're going to prison. Okay, you're not going to go easy on any foreign terrorists, and we're not going easy on any domestic terrorists. And by the way, they bargained for me to be 6 feet under, and instead they've sacrificed themselves. And that sacrifice is what is a very costly one. This is P.O.C. It's not only costly with regard to monetary restoration, which is necessary, mandatory, because the entity bargained for my death. You are going to prison and you're not getting out. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:30 p.m. That's justice, by the way. It's not going to be my life. It's going to be theirs. And this is what the federal government is going to appreciate. That's P.O.C. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. That's Southwest Airlines flying west, and they're targeting by hovering, flying west, creating and maintaining an ongoing public nuisance, as I've been documenting today. And this public nuisance is relevant to the people of the state's compliance, how they are complicit to the criminal pattern of conduct, while the entity is maintaining what is mentally ill behavior, and it's criminal with regard to surveillance
and its psychopathic pacing, putting their demonic behavior, putting their criminal surveillance conduct into context. And the entities flying over the Ontario City Hall, the Ontario Senior Centre, the John Stewart Company, Ontario Senior Citizen Apartment Complex, the 280 Northland Apartments, as I refer to them. They're doing so at 7:19 p.m. The latest flight, I just took a screenshot of it from the Ontario International Airport, which would maintain no flight hovering here. There's also no Southwest Airlines flight published, any departure. The arrivals would be going in the opposite direction, and they also would not be hovering over this venue. The entities engaging what is gang stalking, as I've been documenting. And I captured, just to let you know, this is relevant context regarding what the venue itself is publishing about the operations at the airport. Also, the entity that is doing so under the fake sun. This is under all circumstances of prosecution, but I'm showing you this is undeniable beyond what is a reasonable doubt to a scientific degree of prosecution regarding that federal RICO case and the federal RICO case against the people of the state who are going to be prosecuted for conspiring murder. That's the significance of the government that is stalking through the airports throughout the state of California, through the commercial airline companies. And that's what Southwest Airlines represents. And by the way, they do so as I show you. Southwest Airlines is gang stalking this afternoon, 12:53, I believe. And immediately as I end that video, seconds later, already in the path, planning to engage in, the moment that I stop recording that video, ongoing psychopathic stalking. These are the mentally ill that have the terrorists that have no intention of what are respecting the rights of American citizens, not threatening you, not keeping you under surveillance. These are the companies that are going to be prosecuted, and they're going to cease to exist. They're not going to exist anymore. American citizens, the people of the state, no foreign company or American company has any right to engage in surveillance, which is what Southwest Airlines, that's headquartered, by the way, in Texas, they don't maintain any constitutional right to engage in surveillance. And so this is not only a prosecution, it's not only relevant to damages, this is speaking to the unlawful threat that the people of the state going by the name of Southwest Airlines pose, shared by the rest of the the commercial airline companies that don't maintain any right to further exist. This is based on terrorism. This is unprecedented, and this is changing the landscape. This is not a business, okay? This is that RICO case, which is terrorizing American citizens. You will be wiped off altogether. I will drain you, making sure that company is essentially dissolved, and then that company will cease to exist because they are terrorists. And you're looking at the terrorist conduct, the terrorist mindset, which is what Southwest Airlines represents. All right, this is P.O.C. It's currently 7:22 p.m.
This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's maintaining ongoing flight over the venue. Here you go. This is the entity that's doing so. They're watching themselves being exposed. I just want to be clear. This is the level of desperation that the entity engages in, exhibits when they're murdering American citizens, okay? The disregard. This is an entity that's already prosecuted. So this case is already proven, right? The entity is engaging in what is criminal activity before the world. Internationally, they are exposed. And they are, again, in doing so with regard to merely educating you. You are looking at, while the entity is stalking at the Ontario Senior Center, Ontario Senior, this is, again, multifamily. There's multiple layers here. This is a senior citizen complex. The entity has utilized the senior citizens as a guise to use criminal summoning. They are disturbed, but even this tone of voice right here, I'm disturbing them. But the helicopter activity that I'm documenting, the ongoing psychopathic pacing by hovering over the apartment complex, the ongoing public nuisance by the entity engaging in criminal summoning, that's not disruptive to the senior citizens, but my voice is while I'm outside, okay? My voice is speaking truth about the fact that the elderly are engaging in what is the beast system while the government is paying for their prescriptions regarding their liver spots and their medication, and paying partial percentages of their rent while they're gang stalking with that government that maintains no zoning. There's no appropriate maintenance of the plane activity here with regard to the zoning area. And you're also looking at this. It's currently 7:31 p.m. There is no flight. I just want to show you here at the same time. The entity is engaged in what is monitoring. So you are analyzing the stalker that is watching themselves being exposed and engaging in that ongoing criminal activity at the same time. That's the threat to American citizens. Those are commercial airline companies that are going to cease to exist. Okay, UPS in Kentucky was not an accident. You saw the fake sunset right here today. Let me remind you of what you saw. You are looking at the sunset here. This is the entity that is engaging in this at what is 6:22 p.m. this evening. This is what you witness. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct. You're looking at what is supposedly sunlight, it's impossible light activity, it's on the wall, while the people of the state are gang stalking with minor children in furtherance of murder and psychologically torturing them and also keeping their genitalia under surveillance. And you are looking at this environment, which is not coexisting in any natural environment in Kentucky, where UPS is crashing into a building full of people, ostensibly in an accidental manner, a tragic accident that's even reported to you as such. At the outset, it is presumably an accident, and the entities reporting it to you in that manner on purpose. The people of the state include those that are reporting the news to you. It is propaganda in the U.S. The entities maintaining a fake sun. This is what you're looking at here. Daylight savings time or not, there is no sunset in a natural environment where I've shown you the evidence. I have demonstrated the entity engaging in surveillance under a fake sun. That is necessarily the specific environment where UPS is intentionally, therefore, crashing into people in buildings. That is also suicidal conduct. Acts of terrorism, just like what you saw on 9/11. And we were told that foreign enemies are responsible for crashing into the Twin Towers in New York. And this is what is happening under what you now know is a fake sun in Kentucky, with regard to UPS that you know is gang stalking me in California, under what is a fake sun that is never deviating from sunrise and sunset anywhere in Ontario, including here at the OVITT Family Community Library where I'm documenting this. This is the P.O.C. These are companies that maintain no right to exist, and after I drain the life out of them financially, and I prosecute those that are at the heads of these companies for facilitating terrorism and profiting off of the murder, off of the psychological torture, off of the theft of intellectual property. This is what these companies are doing. This is how they are engaging in that, while they keep American citizens under surveillance unbeknownst to them, and announce them on the news upon their disappearance of being drug addicts, of being mentally ill, of being criminals worthy of being placed in prison, of being put on what is death row and subjecting them to the death penalty. This is the government that's engaging in that, murdering American citizens and abusing this system. This is what the entity is engaging in when you have corrupt law schools, when you have corrupt law enforcement, when you have corrupt courthouses, when you have a corrupt population bearing false witness, when you have corrupt companies, a corrupt society stealing from what are the people of the state. This is the P.O.C. This is what is significant about a gang stalking airport. This is a threat to American citizens, and these companies do not maintain any constitutional right to continue to exist. It is currently 7:36 p.m. The entity is engaging what is psychopathic pacing right here at the side of the OVITT Family Community Library, and that's what I want you to see, where this entity is stalking right here, where the elderly are not disrupted by the plane and the helicopter activity and the ongoing incessant criminal summoning, but they are disturbed by the truth of the sound of my voice as it resonates regarding what are the mentally ill that are engaged in that pattern of conduct, okay? This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 7:36 p.m. where the entity is operating outside of what the Ontario International Airport publishes, which is an admission regarding terrorism. It's all relevant context. This is a case that's already complete. What you are learning are the desperate and ongoing mentally ill conduct of those that, again, have no regard for American citizens. You are engaging in terrorism. And you are going to federal prison. You're also going to be subject to what are mental examinations, and it's not a secret. The whole world is watching that, and yet they're still engaging in targeting. And to continue engaging in what is clearly deviating from an airport, clearly creating what is a public nuisance, engaging in what is on its face improper with regard to the zoning laws that are in place and all other manner of contexts where you are able to identify what is inappropriate for the airport to engage in. It's more than inappropriate. It is unlawful. It is occurring under the fake sun. And you are also able to expose that nationwide while the entity engages in what UPS conducted, which is murder in Kentucky, okay? This is relevant to what is stalking in commercial planes. And these companies are subject to a federal RICO case. And that's going to put those that are in these companies at the heads of these companies making money, employing these demons. They're going to prison. And these are not, you don't maintain any constitutional right to continue to exist as a terrorist, hiding behind company names, forming a corporation in order to maintain criminal surveillance, doing so with terrorists like the Ontario Police Department, okay, who are then again threatening my life while these feces consumers then start flying around in circles in helicopter because they're mad that I keep embarrassing them with this level of evidence. They're all going to prison. All of them. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:38 p.m. All right, this is over El Balcón balcony, hovering there clear deviation from what is hovering where they have been over the 280 North Limit Apartments, stalking, literally, as I've shown also from what the Ontario International Airport itself is publishing regarding flights, where this entity is stalking, flying miles away from an airport, hovering over buildings miles away from the airport, doing so outside of what is also published on the website. The entity is literally following from place to place. So this is the breakdown through evidence of what is stalking as an airport, and this is stalking as commercial airline companies are proven to be terrorists who are not accidentally crashing into the Twin Towers in New York, not accidentally crashing into buildings and killing people, not accidentally crashing into helicopters in the sky. They're engaged in monitoring. They know what's going on between your legs regarding your genitalia. They know what's in the sky space. They're engaged in massive surveillance. This is monitoring, and they're stalking while they're monitoring. All right, and the entity is maintained through the commercial airline companies. The entity is maintaining surveillance through smaller government planes, and as I've shown you, the stalkers who are not police departments, they're engaged in criminals. These so-called police, they're professional stalkers, and they're violent sex offenders. They engage in murder and kidnapping. It's a surveillance system. This is P.O.C. El Bacone is gang stalking. The people inside of the building where the entity is hovering over it are gang stalking as well. This is where Michael GERKEN just engaged in criminal summoning, the Ontario Fire Department, P.O.C. It is currently 9:37 p.m.